All right. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Grail. This is episode number 23 today. And as I sit out here in the desert, just chilling this week, relaxing, I like to kind of look back on things. And so far, what am I? I'm 5.5 months into The Grail, and I can't be more happier with the response that I've been getting. So thank you so much. It's a slow build, but it's an excellent listening audience. People out there that get it. They love the celebration of artisans and artists and creators and makers. And it's a dream come true show. Believe me, I love doing this show. Looking back at some of these episodes like Jason Schott, 4th generation owner of Schott Leathers, Grover Jackson, who kicked it all off, the great artist that created the art for it, Brian Romero, the John Nady wireless episode, Perry Shaw, on and on, Aki. It's been a great 5.5 months so far. So thank you. If you are a new listener or an old listener, please subscribe to the podcast. But most important, leave a review on iTunes and on my YouTube channel. Okay, let's bust into this. If anybody's been listening to Let There Be Talk for the last 10 years, you know I am a boot connoisseur, a boot addict, a boot freak. I love boots. My favorite boots are Westco, Brian the Bootmaker, and Doc Martin. Those are the boots. I've been wearing Doc Martin most of my life, and in the last, 15 years, 20 years actually, I was wearing Westco, and then in the last 5 years, Brian the Bootmaker. I got a closet full of boots. I love them. I wear them all. I rotate through them. I cannot get enough of boots. But the thing I've always looked for, especially when COVID hit, I knew I had to stay in shape with the gyms being closed. I was like, what am I going to do? I'm a former diabetic. I need to keep the weight off. I need to keep the body moving. I'm 55. I don't want the joints and everything to start aching. If you read anything about the body, most old people will tell you they have kept their self together by being physically active, getting up and moving. And that's exactly what I do every day. I wake up and I hit the streets, get out there with Gertie, do some walking, and then in the afternoon, maybe some hiking. And now the gyms are slowly starting to open, so I hit the gym. But one of my favorite things to do is hiking, and I'm always looking for the ultimate hiking boot. Never quite satisfied. I've had some that were pretty close, but there was always something wrong with them. I got a weird foot. I got a big wide foot, and it's flat. So shoes and boots are tough for me. And after going through about 5 different companies during COVID, I was getting ready to hike Half Dome with Brad Wilk. I needed the ultimate shoe to do that. It is grueling, gnarly hike. It's an all-day hike, Half Dome in Yosemite, and I had not done it in many years. Born and raised in Yosemite at an early age, I hiked everything there: Half Dome, Yosemite Falls, Vernal Falls, everything out there. I've done it, but I wanted to go out during COVID. Brain was going crazy, starting to get super depressed, and wanted to go back home and just take that all in. So I went to REI and started trying on boot after boot after boot after boot. Couldn't find anything. A couple of them were pretty close, and I was okay with them. But then somebody recommended on Instagram to check out this company, GORUCK. And I was like, never heard of them. And I looked on the website, and I was like, well, they look like something that I love. It was basically a Vietnam jungle boot, which is something that Brian the Bootmaker and I collaborated on. But Brian the bootmaker and I weren't making a hiking boot. We were making a survival, daily wearing, motorcycle riding, anything, stage rocking. You know, we were making a beautiful, durable boot, but I wouldn't hike in it. So I was like, well, okay, I love this GORUCK look. It looks like a Vietnam jungle boot, which is my favorite design ever, going back into the early 90s when I wore the hell out of those original Vietnam boots that were uncomfortable and felt like cardboard, and it felt like nothing on your feet. I don't know how they wore them in the jungles. So I ordered a pair, the MACV-1. They came to my house. There's a lifetime guarantee on them. It said, if you wear them out, they'll give you another pair. I was like, what? All right, let's see what this is about. They came to the house. I put them on, walked around the living room, and that was it. That was it. I've been wearing them ever since. I've got hundreds of miles on them. They still, there's zero wear on them. I've trashed them in the mountains, water, dirt, concrete, asphalt, mud, everything. And I want to give you a heads up. This is definitely not an advertisement. I just think that my guest today, Jason McCarthy, who is the founder and CEO of GORUCK, I just think that this man has created, with a couple other people, the greatest walking, hiking boot shoe there is. And I want to make sure that they stay in business. I love this shoe. And I love this episode. And Jason is a fantastic guest. Ex-military, very, very positive thinking. Just a great human and a perfect guest. So check out their Instagram at GORUCK. You got nothing to lose. You can buy them. You don't like them, send them back. That's you can't ask for anything better. And thank you for tuning in to the Grail. This episode is brought to you by my fantastic sponsor, Banker Custom Guitars. You looking for a guitar? Handmade? Go no further. Matt Hughes is a killer. He is the guitar maker of the stars. You know who's got him. Marcus King, Mastodon, Scott, my man Scott from Rival Sons, the Fuzz Lord himself. Anyway, Carina V's and Explorers are his expertise. He's also got a great one called the Red Tail. He's got a Fullerton, a Leslie DC. Check them all out. bankerguitar.com. Tell him I sent you. And follow him on Instagram at Mr. Banker Custom. I love him, man. And you want to hear one of his guitars, check out the Flying V in my Instagram that Mark Maron's destroying on. All right, let's get into the episode. Here it is, number 23, Jason McCarthy, founder, CEO of GORUCK. The candles are lit. All right, here we are, an episode of the Grail. An incredible guest today. Introduce yourself, my man.
I'm Jason McCarthy from GORUCK.
GORUCK. You know what's funny? I didn't know what rucking is at all. And then I looked at it and it was like backpack with weights and you go out walking. And I was like, when I was growing up, that was called going to school. Just books in the backpack and head to school, man. But
yeah, a lot of people were a lot healthier too when they were in school than when we all start living behind screens. So I hear you.
Yeah, it is amazing. I got diabetes like 4 years ago. Quit sugar, redid my diet, started working out 5-6 days a week, and my whole life changed, and lost 40 pounds, no more diabetes. So it is amazing what you can do if you want to do it.
So was that a big wake-up call for you?
Oh, absolutely. Because here, I always say I don't think people are going to be able to change what they do as far as diet unless they're happy at what they're doing. So I found stand up 10 years ago. And if I wasn't happy, I probably would have just said, give me the insulin and just carried on. But I found something that I wanted more than sugar.
Lot of wisdom from Fat Bastard right there, right? I'm unhappy because I eat because I'm unhappy. And you're right. It's a symptom. It's not the thing, right? Like you go to the mall to buy stuff, like retail therapy. We've invented this, right? You know, eating yourself sick because you've got a refrigerator full of stuff, and that's where you can get, you know, a quick dopamine hit from wherever. I mean, the bottom line is that we need a little bit more community and friendship, and I dare even say love in our lives, right? You know, all you need is love. There's some Beatles wisdom.
I'm so behind that. And as I get older, especially during the COVID lockdown, if you're holding any kind of old anger on people and then you don't even realize why you're angry at them, it's been so long, just get rid of that. You know, a friend of mine from years ago said anything you store in turns into negative, you know, and he believes cancer, you know.
Stress is positively correlated with basically everything wrong in life, like basically everything. I mean, from decisions made in combat to diseases to hypertension, obesity, all of these things. I mean, stress is a huge part of it. And, you know, what de-stresses us is really fundamental and basic to human existence. Go outside, sweat a little bit, breathe fresh air, do some push-ups. Every once in a while, you'll feel better, right? And then most importantly, be part of something bigger than yourself. The easiest thing to understand in that regard is your family, right? You say, hey, my family, I feel this is my safe place. If you're fortunate, right? Or however you choose your circle of friends, right? It doesn't just have to be by blood. You know, a lot of my family, I wore camo together with. You know, so wherever that community is, you will achieve this state of almost nirvana or fulfillment when you have task, mission, and purpose. And, you know, then all the other stuff just falls into place. You can't buy it. You can't eat it. You can't take it. You can't chase it. It just becomes central to who you are because it's so rewarding.
It really is true. I mean, at 44, I started comedy, and all my friends were long gone from the high school days or music days. They've, you know, married with kids and lots of bills and lots of stress and handcuffs basically to their credit card debt and all that. And I was roaming around looking for something, and it hit me. I always wanted to do comedy, so I went for it. And now, for the last 10 years, I have this group of friends that I would have never even had. Because once you get to a certain age, there's no real new friends coming in. You got the people you go to work and, you know, maybe there's some friends there. And then you got old friends that you see once or twice a year. So that really became a beautiful community for me.
Yeah, I'll say in very much a similar way. You know, I was in the Army and then I got out of the Army. And while you're in the Army, it's like, man, it is such a connection that you make with the people that you serve with. And then that's why you read so much and hear so much about veteran transitions being so hard. About it's because you go from being so needed as part of this team, this unit, to then you're more or less on your own. And there's something about that is inevitable, right? At the same time, you know, for me, what has worked, and I'll just give the example of the last year, is, you know, outside became the solution for us. Like, we're in Florida, you know, I've seen all the digs on Florida. That's okay with me, right? Florida man, fine. Binge Netflix, watch it if you want. I'm just going to say the Florida I was living on, I had people showing up in my driveway. We're staying farther apart at the beginning, and it got a little bigger, and you found out that outside was kind of okay. So it got a little bit more cramped, nothing crazy. And, you know, we would meet up 3:30 in the afternoon on my driveway with the big American flag. And, you know, the garage goes up and I got a bunch of sandbags and we got rucks and ruck plates and all that stuff. And we would just sweat and work out for 30, 45 minutes, an hour. And then we'd sit there and then we'd sit in our socially distanced circle and we'd drink beer and talk about the world, right? Nobody's staring at Instagram. Nobody's, doing all of those things inside of their own head. You're just kind of living a life with a group of people. And when that becomes a habit, a routine, these start to be they're the tribe. You have to do something together though. And that has been really, it was a really, really rewarding thing that came out of COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a big punch in the gut for me was not being able to go to the gym, because I would go 6 days a week. I'd get up in the morning, answer emails, then walk to the gym 3 miles, work out for an hour, walk back, and then start my day. So once that was gone, I had to find a replacement for it. And I was born and raised in Yosemite. I love hiking, and I just started getting out in it,
Also known as rucking in the mountains.
Yeah. Rucking in the mountains. I got a terrible neck, so I can't put anything on my back. I had some neck surgeries, but I do love, especially going to Yosemite and getting up to Half Dome, or the Yosemite Falls. It's just so electric. And if you do it with some friends, it almost feels so weird. It's like this, wow, we're not even on Everest, but we're like, we made it. It's so funny to think about the guys that did Everest. That must be a crazy bond.
Yeah. Metaphorically speaking, electric. It's actually anti-electric, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're just so disconnected, which is, these things, we think that we're discovering things for the first time, but we're not discovering human emotions for the first time. And when you kind of say, look, we still need to go outside with our buddies and do hard stuff and breathe fresh air. It sounds so basic. You just have to do it. I'm not going to say you were fortunate to have a health scare, but if you get these wake up calls in life, the trick is to do something about it, right? I mean, what are you going to do now? Because feeling sorry for yourself, nobody cares.
Yeah,
right?
Man. I did a ton of blow for years. Then one day my arm went numb. I was like, all right, I'm out. I take it until the mind or the brain gives a signal of you had your run, move on,
It takes some wisdom to listen to that though, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And some humility.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people email me every day and they're like, hey man, how do you do it? And they're thinking I'm going to give them some kind of, backdoor secret, you can just eat all of you want candy, but at 9 a.m., there's no secret. It's quit sugar.
Well, everyone's looking for a silver bullet, right? And this is a part of a byproduct of our ecosystem where all of the marketing, we have so much wealth, right? God bless America. I mean, literally, I will fight, bleed, and die for our country, our people, and our way of life. Now, every once in a while, you got to look in the mirror, though, right? And we as a people we have this false notion that there's easy buttons because we're so great, right? And we have this false notion that we can buy our way into whatever the solution might be. And so that spawns and creates entire industries around marketing and selling us things that are portrayed as easy buttons. Buy this, take this pill, buy this cream, do this fad diet. They don't write the funerals on the stuff that doesn't work for people later on. They just move on to the next scheme because someone steals all the oxygen in the room now, right? A new marketer comes along because the old stuff still isn't working and they come on with a new thing and you've got a new silver bullet and the cycle reemerges. And that's what we've done. So to get it out there, yes, we at GORUCK sell rucksacks and ruck plates and you put them on your back and you go for a walk, and we sell sandbags and stuff. And, none of those purchases will ever make you happy. They won't do the work yourself. And if you do it by yourself, even, you're missing out on the larger purpose of what we're about, which is building better Americans and communities and people doing stuff together outside, which is a long-term play. There's no silver bullets.
Yeah. Yeah. It is funny. It's, I think that we've gotten into this world of the Kardashians of how do I just get famous or rich by just being on a social media platform. And then people are just looking for the it's either the lottery ticket or some kind of easy, I'm TikTok famous or something, which is really crazy.
Yeah, you chase something, but think about it for a second. The people who endure have real talent, right? It's not an accident that Tom Brady's won 7 Super Bowls. It's not. I mean, you can get some breaks along the way. I get all of that, right? And removing that, I mean, the people that have real talent are not one-hit wonders. They endure, and that's just, they don't write the funerals on the people who, metaphorical funerals, on the people that have the right haircut, the right season, and the machine makes them into the hot ticket for some predetermined period of time. Well, they're always, the machine's chasing the new. It always wants the new. And if you don't actually do something, with your life that warrants you having this viewpoint that others should listen to or follow or admire, then you're going to get spit up and chewed out by the machine. Now, that's a lot harder than hoping that if you get better at Instagram, that you're going to get famous, whatever that means. You're going to get some extra money for a little bit, and it's just going to be, more and more and more. It doesn't work that way.
I found your company from first of all, I grew up in the Vietnam War era. I'm 55. I do remember the grimness of it, even as a 7, 8, 9-year-old, and the spill off of that, and then going into the Nixon era and Watergate and that whole era. And then of course, here comes the films of Platoon and all the Vietnam films.
Casualties of War.
My favorite, Apocalypse Now and
Apocalypse Now,
Deer Hunter. I think they're the greatest films ever made. And I was always obsessed with the Jungle Boot, starting around 89, 90, 91, when grunge hits. I live in San Francisco. I go down to Haight Street. I get a pair of Jungle Boots, absolutely wore them every day of my life. Between that and Doc Martens. And the Jungle Boot to me is the greatest looking boot, but the most uncomfortable. I was always fascinated how soldiers walked around Vietnam in swamps and dirt roads and stuff in these cardboard boots. So I set out with a buddy of mine and designed a beautiful kind of a boot with Brian the Bootmaker of high-end leather and everything to wear on stage and everything, to have that look. But as diabetes hit and everything, I was looking for the ultimate hiking shoe. And I was always kind of stuck between, I wear a 9, but I have an E wide foot. So I was always stuck with, if I get a 9.5, it's too long. 9's too narrow. It's D. And I went through a lot of shoes when I was getting ready to go do Half Dome again around 6 months ago. And I bought them all. I had them all here and I rocked them all. And somebody recommended your boot to me. And I bought them, they sent them to me, and it was the ultimate fit. And not only that, it was the most comfortable boot. And this is not an advertisement. I want everybody to know you are not on the show because of an advertiser. You are on the show because you guys have created what I feel is the greatest hiking boot, walking boot there is out there.
Well, thank you. You're catching me by surprise. I had no idea that that's how you found us, or that was kind of your introduction like that.
Oh yeah. So I took this thing. It's sitting over here in my hallway. I wear it every day pretty much, and have walked hundreds and hundreds of miles in these things. And then I dug into, it was created by you guys and the guy that invented the Reebok pump. I'm an old sneakerhead, still love sneakers. I do a lot of walking in a Yeezy shoe. I don't give a shit about fashion. I got a shit foot. It's flat, it's wide, and it's hard to find something that fits me. And so when I got your boot, I was like, wow, man. I mean, really blown away about it. Tell me how this boot was created.
Wow. Well, this is one of my favorite stories in the whole GORUCK catalog. So several years ago now, I met a guy named Richard Rice, who was a MACV-SOG Vietnam era special forces guy, right? So the MACV-SOG was the studies and observations group, quote, which was reconnaissance. It was the most decorated and highest casualty receiving unit of the Vietnam War. So, I mean, they were small teams of 2 Americans with 4 indigenous personnel going to observe movement along the Ho Chi Minh Trail, right? And, you know, he excelled in that profession and went on to have a almost 30-year career within special operations, from, you know, moving over to plank member at Delta Force and a lot more other special forces stuff along the way. But I didn't know very much of that story at this time. I knew he had served in Vietnam, and the jungle boots were a beloved pair of boots. Now, when I went through the Special Forces qualification course, starting in 2003 basic training, 2004 Q course, we also got issued, or we bought, I think we actually bought jungle boots at that time, but we had to do some heavy modifications. To your earlier point, they were not built like sneakers. And so there was this thought of, how do you take them and make them more like sneakers? Because the foundation of Special Forces training is rucking. That means you go in the Pine Forest, North Carolina, you put a lot of weight on your back and you move from point to point, land navigation style, right? It's not flutter kicks or log PT or all the stuff you see on Discovery Channel. It's the unfun stuff. It's the quiet nights with, sometimes it's piss and rain, sometimes it's freezing cold, whatever. And you're there, and your feet, the rucksack is kind of mandatory. You have to use a certain thing, an Alice pack, but the footwear, you had some latitude over how to do it. So we took the shank out of old school Vietnam era jungle boots, and we added more of a dense cushioned sole so that they would behave more like a sneaker, meaning you can run in them. Right now, this was done at a boot shop right off the Yadkin Gate at Fort Bragg, and literally it was go there. They called him the SOPC Special because that was the name of the prep course for selection. We went there, and it's where everybody went. Anyway, that was my favorite boot throughout my whole career. And it was my 5-year career.
So you would get a stock boot and take it to somebody and they would modify it for you?
Absolutely. That is a very, very common thing to do in and around military bases.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, I can get with you offline. You can do that with anything, right? They would have various Vibram soles there. And, you say, so we would say, there's a toe cup and a heel cap, or vice versa. Paul always, it's always correct.
Toe cap. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what we found over time is you can't get rid of the toe cap, because if you're walking through the forest and you kick a tree branch or whatever, all of a sudden your big toe is twice as big. You're getting on new hot spots and friction points. And if you remove the heel cup, then when you go on uneven ground, you start shifting too much and the boot takes on a different shape, right? So your foot will naturally expand throughout the course of the day, the week, the month, however it might be, just by virtue of being on your feet, which is good. It's just, it's a natural part of rucking and frankly, just moving on your feet. So what we found out was the sweet spot was just remove the shank, make sure that the bottom is good to go and that you have the correct insert that works for you. Because no matter what they say, there is no one pair of shoes or one pair of boots for everybody. Its feet are very different. There's tons of bones, different shapes, different sizes, all that stuff. So, that was my favorite boot. And we had then fast forward, and then I'll fast forward really quickly is, we had started GORUCK and there was with a rucksack. Like these are kind of like some of the assault rucksacks I had when I was in Special Forces. You get used to carrying weight. There's certain elements that you want to have. It should ride high. It should ride close to your back. You're not bebopping like you did on your way to school, looking cool with slung over one arm and all that stuff. That doesn't work when you start putting real weight in it, right? Or when you don't have, Gumby style bones like my kids do right now, right?
Yeah.
And so fast forward, and we were already, established enough. I mean, 2016, 2017, I met Rich, and I had met Paul through some Reebok connections, and Paul was the guy who invented and designed the Reebok pump. And, at GORUCK, quality is kind of life or death to us. And it's one of those things where I'm not willing to have us sign our name on this stuff that's intended to go to war if it's not meant to go to war, right? So, my buddies are judge and jury of the stuff that we do, which, we have several of them that are a nucleus to our company now, but it's got to hold up. It's got to just work in those situations. And it was like, okay, well, I met Paul, because what I'm getting at is I might be a footwear user, but how to design and develop and perfect and do all of that. Like, I don't know how to do that. It's which factories and all this stuff. And Paul and I became really, really strong battle buddies on that regard, because I know lots about rucking and I got a lot of experience like that. And he knows everything about footwear, right? I mean, billions and billions and billions of dollars of his shoes are out there, right?
What was he retired from Reebok and just floating around? What happened there?
So he was on the tail. We met through Reebok. We were kind of in chats with Reebok at the time, and those didn't go anywhere. No ill will. They just didn't kind of work out with the brands, and met some really dear friends there, Paul being one of them. And so we made friends. And then as he was transitioning out, he started, because he was out of Reebok by this time. We started working on what would become MACV-1, our jungle rucking boots, right? And so that means factories and drawings and sketches, and then in that whole process that it's second nature to him. And I don't know the first bit of it, because look, I mean, you have to find, no matter how good your stuff is, you have to execute on it. And that means you have to have the right factory with the right quality and the right ability to kind of adapt and scale up. And so I asked, early on in that process, I met Rich, and we just kind of hit it off. And I asked him if he would like to be a part of this, because he's got twice as much experience with anything special forces related than the next 10 guys behind him. I mean, he's just a wealth of knowledge and experience at really every level of the Army and within special operations. And so he's a huge mentor and a dear friend of mine. But the thing that I did was I asked him, because we were going to build these boots in Vietnam, which is the place where we could get the best quality. America is not built for this kind of footwear at all.
That's where Doc Martens are made right now, Vietnam.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. And so we were going to go over there, and I'm like, hey, this would be, because I always try to, life's too short. I want to try to cram as much into it with friends that I have and push the envelope and have great experiences and stuff. And so Rich had not been back to Vietnam since the Vietnam War.
Wow.
And, it's a delicate thing to ask someone that you don't know that well. But I asked him, like, hey, would you like to go back to Vietnam with us and be a part of this project? And, his life was at a point where he was in between stuff as well, because he was in education for 20 years after the military. And he's like, I got to think about that. And he got back. He's like, oh, man, I thought about that forever. Well, the next day I got a note from him. He was like, yep, I'm in. So, and once he's the kind of guy, his yeses are yes and his no's are no. And when he said, I'm in, he was all in. So we went back and we furthered the R&D process, which took years on these boots. And we tested out some, and we met with the folks in the factory, and we better understood all of that stuff. But we also rented a car, and there were 4 of us that went over: me, Paul, Rich, and another guy named Andy, who's on our team that could help us document the trip and help on a bunch of other stuff. But we also rented a car and drove all around South Vietnam together. We went to some of the old places where he was stationed, and it was went to shoot the American War Museum, which is what they call it in Saigon.
Wow.
And just from the first trip off the plane, when he saw what he recognized as Viet Cong or NVG, not NVG, North Vietnamese uniforms there, it was like, it was a hell of a trip. And we became really, really tight in that period of time. And so there was just, these boots are full of soul. I mean, there's just such a rich history to the way that we have approached them and the testing process. And the back end of building an excellent product for the use that we have in mind, which is your feet need maximum support. You're going to be on them all day. And, they need to just work, but also to just the legacy that these boots represent and the stories that they represent as well.
Well, let me ask you, what was the blueprint? Obviously, it is a jungle boot, but were you going off a late 60s, early 70s Vietnam jungle boot and tear it apart and go, here's everything that's wrong with this boot? How did you start with the platform?
Yeah, so we wanted to make it a little bit more beautiful. right? Which means simpler. For us, that means simpler. And GORUCK since the beginning has been about Baghdad, New York City. That was the inspiration for the rucksacks, was it needs to work in Baghdad, but also New York City. Those were the places where I was in New York, and I had been in Baghdad and in southern Iraq. And so with the boots, I mean, if you look at the side of some of the old jungle boots, the seams are a little bit different. They're stacked. They're really heavy. There's certain portions to them which are pure function, but they're a little bit more complicated like that, right? And we wanted to make them simpler. So we did start with the inspiration of all the old boots that we had, right? From the Welco jungle boots to the whatever various versions that we had been issued, which we still have. I mean, if I was in my R&D center, which is, 100 meters that way, I've got my old boots that I wore in the Q course. I love them. I look at them, they make me smile. But we wanted to make these, again, more beautiful. And for us, that means simpler. So then it was, well, take the modifications that I did to my jungle boots that Rich didn't do as much. Now realize he was going through mud, and there was some, they like the Panama soles and all that stuff. He would argue that he doesn't want those super hard soles anymore, right?
Yeah. That
they were. And so this is why we created the MACV-1s the way that they are. But we started with all of those. And then Paul's kind of the mad scientist on the way that things are going to fit and how they're going to support your feet, and how we built a premium workhorse insert into them. So most places it's the cheapest piece of foam you can possibly find, as just a way to prevent because there's, either nails in work boots, or there's other ways that they glue together and you wrap the heel and the midsole, and all that stuff comes in the bottom of the shoe. Well, you need to cover that up so you don't get blisters or hot spots just from that. So they'll put some cheap foam liner. And, Paul's the mad scientist on how to create a dual density insert that fits with this boot, that also has a wider toe box that allows your feet to kind of splay out as you are rucking, or the longer that you're on your feet and the more swell they get. And so there's some dark arts to all that world that I don't completely understand. I was more of the high use tester of all weights, all miles.
Now, how many did you guys make before you figured out you've got the one? How many prototypes, and you'd have upgraded it recently? I guess mine is the newest version.
So we have a different sole now. People, this is one of the things where perception can be reality to people. It's like, oh, this sole doesn't have enough grip and stuff. It should have, it's like,
yeah. Well, they're looking for Advents and those shoes. And
they expect them to look a certain way. And so you've got to you can't push too far in one direction. And I get all that. I was thinking about how many shoes we made until it was correct. And I probably, my attic has boxes and boxes of them. Our R&D center still has boxes and boxes. It's probably time to clean them out. I would say 500 pairs.
Wow.
Before, we had them on our special forces guys that run all of our events. We had them ourselves. Different soles, different midsoles, different construction techniques, different. It took years and years. And now realize those aren't unique, right? So sometimes they would, at one point towards the very end, it got to, okay, let's get 50 pairs out there. So as far as completely unique pairs, probably 30.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Between midsoles and leather and this stitch changed and that stitch changed and this insert and that insert. And, it was a lot. It was a long road.
I know when I got them, they showed up, and I had started researching wider toe boxes about 6-7 months ago, because I have this wide foot. And so I got I think it's Advents or whatever, this hiking company. And there was a couple others that were all sent here, and I bought them all. And the wider toe box worked for me. That right away was like a godsend. But man, when I put it on, I was walking in my living room. I was laughing. I was like, these things are like I'm walking on like just a pillow. These are amazing. Like I was just like spongy. And I was cruising around. I go, oh, these are great. And I immediately called my buddy. I go, oh, you got to get these, man. These are the ones. He goes, you've been saying that for 4 months. I go, nah, I sent them all back. This is the one. And man, I don't even look at hiking boots at all anymore. I love when that happens. Okay, that rabbit hole is closed now.
I checked that box. I don't need to reinvent the wheel for myself ever again.
Got it.
It's like every day for lunch, PB&J. I'm at work, PB&J. I don't, sometimes people will cater lunch or whatever, if say we got a big meeting or something, I'm like, I just want my PB&J. I know how I respond to it. I'm good. I just don't want to think about this anymore.
Well, that sole is amazing. So was that part of the Reebok pump kind of technology? Like he was like, I know it's not a Reebok pump, but did he think, okay, in the sneaker world, this is a really good type of sole?
So no, it's not. I mean, look, Paul has a vast catalog of both friends and knowledge. I mean, he is a true professional in his field, and he's knows all about chemistry and compounds and all that, and he also knows his own limitations in that regard. So he had another friend. It's a really small world, the sneaker universe, right? And so we had another friend who is now working at the factory where we were. And, we got him to make a couple tweaks to some older stuff that had been out there for our purposes. And it was just one of those things where it was tried and tested type of thing. But unless you have, it's like tomato sauce isn't tomato sauce, it's tomatoes, sure, but where the tomatoes come from and what's the exact composition. And so you've got to kind of keep testing that stuff out. And we did that, right? So you develop the molds for what the sole is, or the bottom unit's going to be. And then sometimes the midsole and the foreflex and the heel, they have different types of compounds, right? Like the heel strike will absorb more of the shock for more people that are rucking or walking. It's a little bit different compound back there than it is in the front where you need additional traction, stuff like that, right? But the compounds have to reflect that because you want increased durability in the back and more grip in the front, but you shouldn't feel like it's two different things. So he had another one of his, wizards that's a sole compound chemistry wizard who kind of put the white smock on and went to work for us on creating what those would be.
God, they're fantastic. Now there's a crazy warranty on these things, right?
Yeah. Wear them out. We'll, if there's any defects, of course, we'll replace them. Wear them out. We'll send you a new pair. Wear them
out and you'll send a new pair. This is incredible. It's like that Doc Martin. They have the one boot series that they have where it's like a work boot. You wear it until it's dead and they'll send you another one. It's called one boot. It's the last boot you buy. But how do you survive on something like that? Do you think people really won't wear them enough to wear them out?
I don't know. Sometimes things you have to just have faith in, right? And when you spend a really long time in developing what we believe is the best on the planet, and we build durability into it. But also the important part is we took about a pound off of the old boots, right? Wow. So these are really lightweight, from sort of military issue boots. That's you get rid of the really heavy sole, because you can build a really, really heavy boot out of steel if you want to, and it'll last forever, but it's not going to be comfortable. So there's a sweet spot there. When it comes to this specifically, things like lifetime guarantees, I mean, we did that out of the gates on the rucksacks too, right? It was, hey, it's GR1, it's built in the US and it comes with the lifetime guarantee. And I had no idea how that was going to go, but I do know that I wanted us to stand behind the products. And the more important part to us for lifetime guarantees is that it's a forcing function on our operational team to ensure that there is quality. Because if lifetime guarantees are basically marketing driven, then it's marketing people that are kind of writing this off as a budget line item. Now, we have to send out this many replacements. We'll send out, this many cheap things to replace the old cheap things that broke. Now, I'm not saying that's inherently, it's not inherently evil, right? At all. Like, you'd rather have a company that does that. what I'm saying is we're still small enough to where all the departments are very much connected, and we have to just believe in our products enough to stand by them in a way that people respond to. And, you ask people to give your brand a shot and see if something's for them. And, I don't want to waste people's time either. Right. Like, this isn't, I'm not Willy Loman. I'm not going to go out and peddle cheap shoes to people and be unfulfilled by it. I have a true north to me, which is I want my buddies in war to love the products that we build. And I believe that there's a lot of applicability to all of us with this special forces way of life, where when you carry everything on your back and you're humping it all, and you're on your feet all day, that becomes a way of life. And if it's good enough for that way of life, which is not exactly my way of life anymore, right? Mad respect to those currently serving, then it's good enough for me. And so, it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to say, hey, this is what we mean by saying that.
And another thing that blew me back was the price. The price is amazing. What are they like? I can't even remember, 180, 160 or something. How much were they?
Well, there's different price. I don't have it right in front of me, so I don't want to get it wrong.
I mean, they're not $500. Let's just put it that way.
$500. And this is kind of this gets into kind of a question of American manufacturing versus overseas. And we certainly do a lot of both now. We started out exclusively with Made in America, and with footwear of this kind of footwear, it is not possible in America right now to scale at quality this kind of footwear. At least if it is, we couldn't find it, and we got people that know where to look, right? And so it's like, look, it's not as costly. You can Google durable made in USA boots, and if they're really high quality, you're going to pay double or triple what our boots are. And those boots are great, right? I mean, I have an old pair of leather Red Wings, and I love them. Those boots are for a different purpose than
that's totally
than
different thing, man. I mean, I've got 5 pairs of boots, and some are high end, made by my buddy. He's a cobbler, but this was a boot I was looking for to work out, hike, and run, and everything in. I've never had anything like it.
So that's the special forces way of life right there, right? It's got to be adaptable. It's got to be anti-fragile, and so that's exactly what we were going for. And, at some point, if it costs too much, then it's not, people won't use it for what we intended it to be used for, right? If you start charging $400 for a pair of boots, they're going to rub it with a diper, and,
I don't want to mess my boots up.
It's like, we want it to get out there, and people need to use it. And so, nobody has the perfect solutions, and we certainly don't, on what something should cost and all of that stuff. I mean, to me, it's worth a lot more, but at the same time, we're trying to come out with great stuff at a fair price.
Hold on. Let me get mine so people can see what the hell we're talking about. Hold on. All right. Here's
there
mine.
You got them.
Is this covered in
those are not brand new, which is awesome.
No,
that's what I love to see.
I wear these 5 days a week when I'm walking and hiking and working out. And I love the Tasty logo on the side. I love the Vietnam Jungle Book boot look. Like, this is the newest one because it's got the green. Before, they had the desert sand and the black. And the quality is unreal. I mean, I beat the shit out of these things, and I wear them every day. They're just fantastic.
Well, awesome. We have this kind of joke. I have a dog named Monster, and he's a chocolate lab, right? People, our kids are not afraid of monsters.
Yeah.
But the joke is, like, if you buy our stuff and you just leave it in the closet, Monster's going to come take it from your closet. So it does really make me happy when I see people really using our stuff, because that's why we design and build it, and we love to see it put through the ringer.
Now, how is it taken off? I don't know anybody. I tell everybody about it. I don't know anybody with them, and now I tell everyone about them, and they're buying them. How's it going?
I mean, footwear is a very difficult industry to crack into, and it's those, and we have ballistic trainers which are 2 of our top 6 products. So it's great. And the surprising this, I mean, like, look, we're not $1 billion company with, anything like that. The surprising thing is we don't do a lot of marketing directly to the military, despite our roots. But our number one selling style of footwear is the 8-inch Coyote version of those exact boots because they're uniform compliant.
Right.
So, I was up at an event that we were running in the Fort Bragg area in January, and a lot of the guys were in the Special Forces qualification course now. And they came over and they said, these are the boots I wore for the all of selection. I'm like, that's awesome, because if I was going through selection right now, those are the exact boots that I would wear too. So that's the kind of feedback that makes our day. And we love to see people use it really hard. And it's fun to build product that we can really stand behind.
I totally want to get Henry Rollins in a pair, because he wears, like field boots and that whole thing. And I know that he would love them, because we'll
send him anything if you shoot me a note. I'm a big Henry Rollins fan. The iron doesn't lie.
Yeah. And Marin wants a pair, man. Marin's like, oh, I like those. I'll try those out. Cause Marin and I hike like twice a week, Mark Marin. And, it's just, I love to shout out people that have a great product. And I was like, I got to have these guys on the show, man. This shoe has really, really changed my game as far as hiking. Like sneakers fall apart. They also water gets in them or whatever. I walk my dog a lot. She goes wherever she wants, and where it's just like, oh no, mud, water. So it's just been perfect, man.
What kind of socks do you wear?
I just wear, dumb socks.
Well, I would recommend, the more serious you get, like pick a merino wool blend.
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of, for sure. That's kind of the sweet spot along how you can, if it works for you, don't break it. Right. But at the same time, you get these socks that when it's hot out, you stay cool. When it's cool out, your feet are always going to overheat. So I kind of take that back. You want the water to go away from them, and it's supposed to drain.
That's why you have the drain holes, right?
It is, right? I mean, these are proudly not waterproof. And I say that because waterproof boots, number one, well, first off, if you're, sitting around a campfire in Siberia, that's awesome. Get yourself some waterproof boots. They'll help your feet stay warm. But if you get out and about, when you're moving, your feet are sweating. It's an enormous sweat region of your body. And that just will be a thing. So if you step in water, right, and it goes over your ankle, however high your boot is, and it gets into a waterproof boot, there's nowhere for it to go. So, where the roots of jungle boots are, you're in the jungle, your feet are definitely going to get wet. And so you have to have a way to get rid of the water. And to do that, it has to happen with your natural gait, which is why the drain holes are where they are. Man,
you got a home run design here, and I love your company and I love your boot, man. And that is no lie. I just, I want to get another pair because I'm the type of guy, I am a freak. When I find something I love, I buy the second pair because I am afraid later on they changed the sizing, or, oh no, because I'm really finicky between 9 and 9.5. And this boot is the first boot that's really fit me out of the gate, where I'm like, wow, I don't have to get it stretched. I don't have to break it in, or any of that. And so I'm always the guy, like, I got to get a second pair of these. And the second pair I'll just wear on stage. I'm a comedian, Yeah. So that'll be my nice pair. And then
the good news is that the way that we are, I mean, we're the big companies that are always changing everything. I mean, it's an enormous process to change lasts and molds and all that stuff. So that's not going to really be in the cards for us.
Good, man, because that is always, I see it in these reviews, say on these other shoe companies, people would be furious. They're like, oh, I've been wearing your shoe for years, and then you change the sizing and they don't fit me anymore, just out of nowhere. And what they don't know is, no, what they did was they went to a cheaper factory in another country and found, and I mean, look, I wear the.
Then they had to redo the molds and the lasts.
Right.
That's what happened, and it wasn't a perfect 1-to-1, and that's just kind of how it goes. Or someone new became in charge, and everyone's got to make their mark, and that's just kind of not. I mean, we've barely touched our original rucksack. It's 10 years later, so it's.
How long you been in business?
Officially started in 2008. First revenue was 2010, and been growing ever since.
Man, I want you to be around forever. Just for, I dig you and I dig what you guys do. So thank you so much for being on the show. Tell everybody your Instagram and your website.
We're at GORUCK.com. Instagram is at GORUCK, all that fun stuff. And personal Instagram is Jason J. McCarthy.
And it's GORUCK.
You got it. GORUCK.
Right.
GORUCK.
Yeah. GORUCK. I was so funny. I was like, what is rucking? Just give me the boots. Good. Follow me after, man. And I'll follow you back. And I hope to meet you face to face one day. And I can't thank you enough for doing the show. I just love what you guys do. And also thanks for what you did in the service, man, for us,
Thanks. I really appreciate it. It was the honor of my life to serve America in that capacity. So I'm trying to figure out other ways to reinvent myself so I can keep doing some good.
It's great, man. And thank you for doing the show.
Thanks.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Yep.
See ya.
Thanks again.